My name is Claudius, and I'm going to give a brief overview of the Cisco Meraki Wi-Fi mesh system. So the system is multiple access points, providing a mesh coverage over an area of maybe the town centre or high street. It can provide seamless free internet access to the end user, but you don't have to have that enabled. It also can have the option for people to register to use the Wi-Fi and possibly have the option to opt into an email list that you could have. The Wi-Fi also collects anonymous data in the background, and that's done through mobile devices it detects. This data is, as I said, anonymous and allows us to collect statistics as well. It also analyzes on a sort of high level the kind of Wi-Fi activity that happens. So here's an example of coverage. This is a map of Tembe, and the access points have been installed a few years ago now. So each access point has about 100-meter coverage. So you need to think about where you're going to put the access points in terms of getting the kind of coverage you want for the area you want to have the analytics and provision of the free Wi-Fi. And this is what the access points actually look like. You've got the antennas there that service two different frequencies to allow as many people as possible to use the system. So you've got examples there on top of a shop and on a wall in a car park in these two cases. So you will need to find a power source for them and, if possible, broadband, but it's not necessary to have broadband as long as there's another access point nearby which has broadband, which it can feed off and bounce the signal from. And then, as I said, in the background, there is a dashboard which is cloud-based, which you'd log in through the license you'll receive for the access point. And that can give you a range of information then, which you can use to develop decisions for the town. It provides things like a heat map. And so this shows you devices across the town in terms of density of people at 6 o'clock in the evening in the town centre. So the darker the colours, the more densely populated at that time, at that area at that time. It shows footfall data. So you can see there in terms of devices it's finding passing by, which is going through the town, or people actually staying for a period of time, which is the visitor, or people actually using the Wi-Fi. So you've got some numbers there in terms of a typical period of time over a few weeks there. But you can drill this down, you can filter, you can narrow the parameters. There's all sorts of options that happen within the system. And this second one then shows you how long people are staying in the town in terms of, again, a period of time you can drill down. So you can got 6 or more hours, right down to up to 20 minutes. And then you can work out then, how you can try and influence the dwell time, how long people are staying, and also see what days are busy during the week. Is there a pattern? Is there a relation to things like the weather and things like that? Also then, how often are people coming back into the town? And again, in the case here, we've got Tembe over a couple of weeks. So you've got people that come in occasionally to people who've never been there before. So they could be counted as tourists in a way. So in this case, you've got 890 first-time visitors. So again, you can actually filter this, break it down, extend the period of time, and actually see patterns of seasonality possibly over a period of time, over a year even. And then for those that do decide to actually use the Wi-Fi, you could then get a high-level report in terms of what kind of use is being made. So, in this case, over half are using it to look at websites. And then you've got a mixture of social media and accessing email. You can also have, at the beginning, when people detect the Wi-Fi for the first time, a splash page. So in this case, we've got Carnarvon here. So people can provide their email, first name and last name, and have the option then to opt in to a mailing list. So with all that, there is, of course, some management that needs to be considered. Who's going to be looking after the email list that comes in on the landing page? What organization in the town is going to be doing all this? You're going to need support from business owners or property owners, because you need to put these units on buildings, and you may need to actually have a small amount of bandwidth from these business owners or building owners as well. You can also get the system to drop into a website once they've registered or logged in as a default page to start off. And then, of course, you've got access then to that dashboard. And how do you use that information? Who gets to see that information? How do you distribute the information? You could also limit the controls. You don't have to have as much bandwidth. You could limit the bandwidth right down to very minimal amounts, or you can switch the Wi-Fi off altogether and not allow Wi-Fi and just use it purely for analytical uses. And also you can have a period where you may not want to provide free Wi-Fi. For example, after 8 o'clock in the evening until the following morning at 8 a.m., you can switch the Wi-Fi off altogether. So how can this help? Just briefly, for the people that come to the town, local people or tourists, they can have access to free Wi-Fi. Doesn't drain on their own data allowance on their mobile. Again, you could remember you can have narrow amount of bandwidth, up to 1 or 2 meg possibly. It would direct people to a single website possibly to give a sort of visitor experience. Marketing the town, so people would access it and then be able to see the login pages. People will actually be able to use the system to socialize about where they are, they're visiting the town, and be able to help promote and market the town. Businesses then also be able to promote offers. Maybe they could have a different portal page, and then they could have special offers on there. And also from the data that's been interpreted, maybe that will help them make better decisions in terms of maybe opening times or what days are busy for them, maybe staffing rotas, comparison with what comes in on the till in terms of footfall, and decisions like that can be made. And also on a wider scale, maybe with the pattern and things, you can actually get decisions made in terms of changes to the town itself, or justify maybe budgets, etc., to show that there's a demand, or maybe certain busy days, etc. So here are some examples of towns that already have the system installed. You've got Aberystwyth, Fishguard, Cardigan, Llynrindod Wells, Tenby, and Llandelo. There are others. I mentioned Carnarvon earlier. And if you want to find out more or need further support, here are some webpage links for the Year of Smart Towns Resource Hub, www.hubmenta.cymru/en/smart-towns/resource-hub. There's also a LinkedIn group as well. So head to those pages and get in touch. Thanks you for listening.